For All Mankind Season 4 is back, and if you haven't seen this show, it's a what-if alt history where America didn't land on the moon first, they were bet by Russia. And from there, it follows the astronauts, engineers, politicians and their families who are involved with NASA and the Apollo space program, who all have to deal with this loss of America coming second. The first 3 seasons of the show cover from the first moon landing in the 60s all the way up until the mid-1990s, and by this point humans have started to colonise the moon and are now reaching out to Mars. Season 3 ended with NASA being bombed, a rescue mission on Mars, and the fate of some of the main characters unknown. So where does Season 4 pick up? Well, I'll get to that in a minute, but first of all, as always, I'm Al, this is the Geek in Review. And just to say, thanks for taking the time to choose to watch this channel, I really appreciate it, and if you haven't done already, subscribe and leave a like on the video as well. The first episode of Season 4 is called Glass Knot and picks up in 1996 with flashes of the late 90s and the newsreels and the things and events that happened in this world. We see Ellen Wilson become president twice, becoming the first openly gay US leader. A new drive has been invented, allowing them to reach Mars quicker and explore space further. We also see the Korean astronaut from the end of Season 3 arriving home as well. A hotel has been opened on the moon, the Clintons got divorced, the bombers from Season 3 are sentenced, and JFK Jr. lives and seeks re-election. And speaking of which, by the year 2000, Al Gore wins the presidential election, Ellen gets married when she retires, and John Lennon plays the Super Bowl. So while the world might seem very different if you haven't seen the show, it does feel very familiar to our own, and is more a sort of what if rather than Star Trek or Expanse kind of show. But President Gore has made peace with the Russians, working together to end the Cold War and help explore space. In Happy Valley, the colony on Mars is now bustling with Americans and Russians working together. So everything is the opposite of our world at the moment. It's going well and, ours is shit. We see the crew of the Mars base go about their day talking to Ed Baldwin, who's commanding a ship to explore an asteroid with a mixed Russian and American crew. So things have changed quickly in the For All Mankind universe. Well, not really, it's been 10 years. But the world for these characters has changed. Things have now moved forward a lot further, and while familiar, it does feel very different to our own world. Even in Mission Control, the two powers are working together with the goal of the asteroid for it to be transported to Mars to allow them to mine a mineral that's going to make them self-sufficient. With a new mission director, Eli Hobson, and the familiar face of Aldida, who's also part of the Asteroid team and has brought her son to work. So this is a turning point here for not just the characters but potentially humanity as well, with the first human colony becoming completely self-sufficient off-planet. And it's a Russian cosmonaut who's going to be the first one to land on the asteroid, and it looks great, this scene, absolutely fantastic. But you would expect that from an Apple TV show, but it's really the score which makes this, and it features quite heavily in this show later on in the episode as well. And all this has happened before the title credits have even rolled. So the episode opens with Margot, who, as I said, we last seen at the end of Season 3 in Russia, and this is where it picks up with her going about her daily routine. With a new peace between the powers, you have to wonder how she's going to fit into all this long term, and she might rock the boat, as we'll see later on in the episode. It's clear that she's being observed even when she's not really up to anything in particular, and seems to live a very solitary life in her new home. She reads about the mission in the news, and you can tell that she does miss her own life. Speaking of which, back in the States we're introduced to a new character, Miles Dale, played by British actor Toby Kebbell, and he's getting ready for a job interview. His life's like Margot's, it doesn't seem to be the way he wants it to be, with his wife clearly wanting a divorce, but he wants to keep things going and try another time, and really seems to be a down on his luck kind of guy. He's got an interview for Helios, the space exploration company, to be a miner and construction worker on the moon, and I like that we're getting to see this guy's journey from literally Joe Average to trying to get into space, and it really reminds me of the arc of a few characters had in the first 2 seasons. He arrives for the interview and you can tell that he feels anxious, but he's been recommended by a friend, and we find out the oil industry on Earth has at least been reduced, with oil rigs no longer existing in the United States. He lies on his application saying that he was at university in Florida and easily passes the interview. But there's a catch. The nearest slot to go up is 2005, which is 2 years from now, or at least now in the show, not now, it's almost 20 years in the past, you know what I mean, like and subscribe. And with his current situation, he wants to speed the process up. He gets offered a role on Mars, but the catch is it's 2 years off planet instead of just months. So he's got a hard choice to make, and he's not the only one in this episode. While his family needs the money, it'll effectively end his marriage if he does go to Mars. We also catch up with Danielle Poole in this episode, who's playing Happy Families with Danny Stevens' widow, while Kelly, who made it home and had a son named Alex, is waiting for Ed to get home, as her own home life seems to have a little bit of tension. And you can tell that Ed is really feeling his age in this episode. He might even have some sort of condition as he clenches his fist and looks at it right before going to assist with the Asteroid mission. And Ed does seem really reluctant to go back to Earth as well, and I'll explain why later on in the episode. In order to capture and transport the asteroid, they've built a huge rig, which is basically just a massive engine with cables to push it towards Mars. And the fact that people in this world can build something this size and this powerful and then get it into space in this position shows how far they've come and how shit our world really is. Back on Earth, Mission Control are keeping an eye on what's going on as the ship and the rock travels through space towards Mars. Cables connecting the rig to the rock collapse, causing the asteroid to go off course. Ed tries to correct the issue, but it only gets worse, disconnecting the ship from the asteroid. Everything they try isn't really solving this problem, and they want to go outside onto the asteroid itself and manually reattach the cables. Mission Control doesn't want them to, but Ed overrules, saying that they don't have a choice, and a few of the crew go outside to try and save the day. The rig collapses around them, killing one, leaving only Grigory, the Russian, pinned to the rig while they travel through space. Ed wants to go outside to save him, but his second objects, and with his air running out, Grigory tells them to cut him loose and the rock as well. And Ed knows this is the right thing to do, but doesn't want to lose anyone else, but he does have a duty to his ship and his crew first of all, rather than just some guy that he's known for a while. He cuts them both loose, saving the ship, but maybe the asteroid is now heading towards Mars on a collision course? They don't really address that, and I wonder if it's going to come up later on in the season. Let me know what you think about that in the comments below. Mission Control is hectic as Alida, one of the staff, seems to have flashbacks about the bombing from the end of Season 3 and Seasons Up. Danielle watches the news of what happened on the mission and the deaths as Margot does the same in Moscow, and you can tell that they both feel the loss differently. To Margot, it's more of a defeat, and you can see that she really wants to get back into the thick of it all. And after failing over the phone, she goes directly to the Russian Space Agency. And it seems that her use for them, and at least for her, has come to an end. She wants info on what happened to see if she can help, and she hasn't lost her edge, even if she's not exactly been in the game the last 10 years. Back in America, Miles' wife doesn't want him to take the Mars job due to the accident in the distance. And he promises her it's all going to be okay, so this guy is probably now a dead man walking, right? Right? He's got to be. A week after the accident, Ed arrives back in Mars's orbit and he sends a reply to Kelly, telling her that all the asteroid missions have been stopped for an investigation, and he wants to stay in space longer to assist the new commander of Mars taking over. And Kelly doesn't take it too well because Ed keeps avoiding the fact that he's not coming home. Back at NASA, Danielle goes to the Molly Cobb Space Center. That's right, you heard it. Mirroring what Margot done going to the Soviet Space Command to try and get her position back, or at least get a position, and it seems that the opposite is true of Danielle. She meets with the new director Eli, who's a bit of a hero worship when it comes to her. He's even got a pair of her boots that she used when she landed on Mars on his desk. And it turns out that he called her in as opposed to Margot getting ignored by the Russians. and he wants to appoint her as the new mission commander of Mars, so effectively Ed's boss. But she's not a fan of his, as it turns out when he took over the position at NASA, he cut budgets. But he sees the power of her and her legend, what she's done, the generation she's from, and the experience that she has. It also looks like Eli's trying to oust Ed, or at least he isn't very happy with him. And Danielle kind of agrees without saying it, saying that Ed's a bit of a liability as well. But it's not about one person, it's about the greater good and the push forward, and that's the big sales pitch that he gives her. While she's trying to decide if she wants to go back to space, Margot is trying to decide if she wants to do anything at all. She's approached by a woman in the park who warns her not to cause problems and to be patient, and leaves a phone number for her to contact her on. So things in Russia might not be as unified as it appears on the outside. The episode ends with Miles on his way to Mars, with Danielle, Ed and Margot all contemplating their futures. And Ed definitely seems like he's having health issues and probably hasn't told anyone. And that's the reason that he doesn't want to go back to Earth, as once he's there he's not going to be allowed back in space again. And that's kind of where it ends off. And this was a fantastic opener, but I would expect nothing else and nothing less from this show. The story and the characters brought us right back up to speed and exactly where we need to be, and as I said, it looks stunning, but that's the case with all Apple shows, including Foundation and Monsters Legacy that's coming soon. Apple knows how to make beautiful premiere television, but for some reason doesn't give a shit about marketing it, and that really annoys me. Come on guys, you could get a lot more people watching your show if you actually had adverts for them. But as you can tell, I really loved the opening of Season 4. We find out where everyone is and we get some new interesting characters as well, and a world that's not so different but not so the same of our own. And it feels like the direction that we should be going in, let's be honest, because again, the real world is shit. But as always, these are just my thoughts. I want to hear what you guys thought of the first episode of For All Mankind Season 4, so let me know in the comments below. And I might do a stream on it like I've done with Foundation. If you'd like to see that, let me know as well. It'll probably be this Sunday if I get enough interest, but if not, I'll stream something else. So make sure that you're tuned in for that, and if you haven't done it already, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any notifications. And as always, my name's Al, thanks for watching.